I'm Julie Bartkey with this Senate update. The Senate Rural Task Force, a bipartisan group of lawmakers, was established to identify the needs that exist in greater Minnesota. The Senate Rural Caucus laid out the top priority that was identified by the task force in a news conference on Wednesday.
Well, good morning, everybody. We're up here today to talk about Senate File 420 and House File 809. These bills establish rural career counseling coordinators in each of the 9 identified rural workforce development centers. And Bob will speak for his body, but I'm going to speak for my body. The Senate Rural Task Force was formed and met from August to December of last year. We had 8 members. It was a bipartisan task force. Besides myself, we had Senator Julie Rosen, Senator Vicki Jensen, Senator Bill Weber, Senator Kevin Dahl, Senator Gary Dames, and Senator Kent Eakin, and Senator Paul Gazalka. And this bipartisan committee was charged with identifying the key issues concerning relating to the economic development in rural Minnesota. The task force unanimously agreed that workforce training should be the #1 priority. And in the course of the presentations, the Higher Education Career Advisory Pilot Program was identified as what was needed to address the needs of business wishing to expand in rural Minnesota. So the Rural Task Force developed draft language with the help of stakeholders, and we expanded the pilot project to all rural Minnesota. The focus of this bill is to establish a coordinator in each rural workforce development center called a Rural Career Counseling Coordinator, RCCC. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bob and anybody else who would like to make some comments, and then we'll stand for questions. Thank you very much.
This is one of the best bills I think we're going to have this year. It'll take our seniors and give them an opportunity to study for an occupation they have ability, aptitude, and interest for. It will train them in high school because they're probably a non-post-secondary education-bound student. It will keep them in our communities by training them and showing them occupations and businesses in our communities. It's very important that we do the things necessary to give every student the very best job they possibly can have. And that's what we're working very hard to get done. So it's exciting. It's going to be a good thing that we're doing for the students. And everybody doesn't have to go to college. They can stay home, work in an occupation, get educated in their high schools for their job. They can actually take high school courses that will help them with a job that suits them. And it's going to be exciting to have the workforce centers help do the ability, aptitude, and interest testing, take them out there and show them a job that's in our community that is within their scope of abilities, aptitudes, and interests. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to see it work. And it's going to be a fun thing.
Well, good morning. I'm Senator Julie Rosen, and I'm very honored to be here talking about this amazing initiative. I'd like to first thank Senator Saxhaug. He actually is the one that created the Senate Rural Task, or Caucus, I should say. And often I make reference to, I have more in common with the Senate Rural Democrats than sometimes of members of my own caucus. We have a lot of the same issues that are facing greater Minnesota. And one of them, as Senator Saxhaug said, workforce housing, we talked greatly on that, but we settled on workforce training. And when you talk about workforce training, we have an aging population out in greater Minnesota. And we have this amazing, valuable asset, and that's our young children. So we need to provide opportunities for them to stay home, make a good livable wage. It is truly a well worth investment, the $27 million that this bill is asking for, because I refer to it as a connect the dot bill. We are connecting the dots between workforce training, K-12, the employers, higher ed, and also the trade institutions. There's a lot of great programs out there, but they all work in silos. So it's really important that we have this conduit of information being put out, and everybody is working together, and it's a perfect complement to what the workforce centers are already doing. So we can provide opportunities for our children to stay home, also provide opportunities for people that are looking for a different career, for our elderly who are going to be a large portion of our workforce in Greater Minnesota. And I'm very excited about working with this wonderful group of people up here too. So again, thank you.
Good morning. I would also like to thank Senator Saxhaug for putting the group together, because we were able to have some really open conversation about some of the challenges that we face in rural Minnesota. And like they said, we talked about workforce development and housing. That's not something that I have been working on since being elected, and spent time in my district talking with these different groups that we're talking about in this bill on how do we get the high school environment, the K-12 environment, connected to the secondary environment and then the business. Now, we have some federal money that's available through Perkins funding, and it's supposed to do that, and it's working well. But we can expound on that and expand that. The task force gave us the opportunity to hear the great opportunities that are being provided that Senator Rosen talked about, where Bemidji has a great program where certificates are available. We even listened to what are they doing in Wisconsin when it comes to manufacturing alliances, and how are they bringing the businesses into that. What I'm most excited about is these coordinators will be able to do the shoe leather type thing that has to happen when you decide as a community you need to provide opportunities for our youth and for some of our adults. They'll be able to make relationships and form those kinds of relationships with each one of those entities, and then take it to the next step by coming back together as a group in the workforce development from the workforce center perspective, and talk to each other. What's happening in other areas of the state? What are best practices that we can pull then into other communities and provide that information to those communities, and they can decide for themselves, is this something we want to do? How do we do it? These coordinators will be able to help those communities do that, and I also look forward to seeing these great opportunities for our rural communities.
Thank you very much. I'm State Senator Bill Weber from Laverne, Senate District 22. I'm pleased to have been part of the Rural Task Force and to also be a proponent for this legislation. I think the important element of this legislation is really twofold. First, too many times in rural Minnesota, we're too Minnesota nice. We sometimes fail to promote the assets that we have, and we fail to even inform what opportunities are available within our communities. The other, and this gives us that opportunity to inform our young people what opportunities there are in their own community to have a good job, to stay there, to be able to raise a family in the place that they call home. And I think also one of the things that this does is an important outreach into our secondary school system. And four of us that are up here serve on the Education Committee, the E12 Education Committee. And one of the things we've been hearing is about the severe lack of counselors that there are in our school systems. And part of the reason for that is the fact that they nowadays have to deal with so many of the social issues that they have been unable, and through no fault of their own, to devote enough time to career counseling. By the establishment of these individuals within our area workforce offices, we will be able to reach into the school to provide a lot of that workforce and career counseling that right now they haven't been able to get. And I think this is extremely important for our businesses, and most importantly, it's extremely important for our young people. And they will help to revitalize the communities in all of rural Minnesota. So thank you very much.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Senator Saxhaug, for putting this committee together. We certainly appreciate it. I'm Senator Gary Dames from Redwood Falls, to represent Senate District 16. I think that this is really an important bill. I think it's a great bill. It's another piece of the puzzle that we can use to help solve some of the issues we have in rural Minnesota. In rural Minnesota, as many of you know, we have several job openings, but we have an issue with having the people with the skill sets to fill those jobs. And this bill will help us accomplish part of that, helping fill those jobs with the skill sets we need, especially with the counselors that can coordinate this with the local schools. It gives our children, our youth an opportunity, our high school students an opportunity to get an exposure to what the trades are, to understand what skills are necessary to fill those trades, and also to get an inventory of what jobs are out there in rural Minnesota. And I think that it's very important that we use this opportunity along with some of the other bills that are going through the Senate this year. I think that this is a very strong bill. I think it'll help our rural economy and help our rural jobs considerably. And it's been an opportunity, I appreciated the opportunity to be on this committee. And again, I'd just like to thank Senator Saxhaug and the committee members for the hard work to bring this bill forward.
Anybody else? Anybody have any questions?
Is Minsky okay with this kind of plan? I mean, obviously you're saying you're going to work with higher ed.
Right. No, I haven't heard anything from Minsky. I would think they would be thrilled with this plan. We are going to make one tweak in that some of the school counselors were worried that our definition of counselor instead of a career coordinator, they'd like for us to clarify that, and we are going to. And so there shouldn't be any problem with the school counselors.
How does this affect the job shortages that are occurring right now? I mean, does this tackle this now, or is this something that you're going to plant the seed and it's going to take effect in 2-3 years?
Well, no, we think that, and I'm going to let other people address this too, but I think when we came together with the whole idea that, the jobs are out there. Our problem is that we can't fill them, and it's because we don't. Our kids really don't know what's out there, and so that's what this is going to do. We're calling it connecting the dots. We're connecting the dots between the businesses, the high schools, and higher education.
But it's not. But I just want to make sure it's not. You can't take effect like right away, right? I mean, you're going to have to set this program up, so it's going to be a year or 2 or 3 down the road.
Yeah, it can go right over. It's coming out of a pilot program that was very successful. So and this comes out of AMC, and they know exactly what they're doing. So it's not going to be instantaneous, but everything's in place.
As far as going into place right away, a lot of what they're going to be doing is talking to the students about what's currently available now, and then also working on what could we bring into the community later on, as far as what the community wants. I know in my particular district, South Central College has put together and brought back carpentry and some of those programs. So part of what they could do immediately is go into the school, which we now would allow them to do through this legislation, and tell people that it's available. So I think that's an immediate benefit, but I see great opportunity long-term too.
Is it a bigger problem? I'm sorry.
If I can answer that too, I think it is more of a long-term direction. Roughly 80% of kids, when they come up, they go through high school, and then they leave their community in rural Minnesota, they don't come back. And so we want to make sure that they know of all the opportunities that are available for them in rural Minnesota. And so this is one of the key components. There's another one, a pilot program called the CEO, where high schools are showing people entrepreneurial opportunities for them in their local communities. And as we roll out more programs for them, we find that a much higher number of students end up staying in their communities. And so it's a win for the community, but it's a win for the student as well.
And that kind of parlays off of my question. Do the kids want to stay, or are they more interested in leaving these areas?
If I could answer that, I believe that they don't know what the opportunities are in their area. When they know what the opportunities are and the world is wide open to them, they have that opportunity. Right now, they have no opportunity. There is something that is happening, and there were several references to that about little projects here and there, best practices being done all across the state. In my community of Fairmont, the superintendent has opened up a welding program in the industrial arts of the high school. And the Department of Ed made all the schools in the state go through their inventory in their industrial arts, find out how old that equipment is, what they have, the condition it's in. And it's been a wonderful tool because you have these schools that sit 85% empty. most of the, during the year. 15% of the time they're being utilized. So as far as this little program, this little silo, Southern Minnesota is a welding program. We are in great need of welders, and that information, with the help of the workforce development centers, can get that information out and provide opportunities for these kids immediately.
Dr. Walter Roberts, you mentioned MnSCU, will they do it? Dr. Walter Roberts came to visit me, and he's the Dean of Counseling at MSU, Mankato, and he's very excited about this program. We are not in any way trying to compete with him and his counselors that he has at Mankato that he trains to go in education counselors, but at the same time, we are going to do things that will help through the workforce centers who have the ability to do aptitude, ability, and interest testing, have done it for years, and who are very good at it. They're going to sit there and they know where the jobs are in their areas, and they're going to introduce students to jobs at home that they might be interested in.
And one other thing that I would like to comment on is that what we have seen in recent years, there was a shift in education in Minnesota. A number of years ago, there were a number of different vocational career training programs that existed out in our rural school districts. At some point in time, all of a sudden, this emphasis became getting everybody ready for a four-year college program. And I think somewhere along the line, we lost sight of the fact of telling our own kids what's available at home, and also letting them know that it's okay not to get a four-year degree, that there are other great jobs and skill sets that are available in less than four-year degree programs. And so as a result, I think we've had a number of years where we have sent students off thinking, well, the only way I'm going to make it in life is I have to leave home and I have to go to the big city to get a job. And quite frankly, what this does is pull us back to the reality of making sure that these individuals know what their opportunities are, and recognizing that in their vocational career training, they can actually have careers that are going to pay them better than what some of our four-year degree people are able to make these days.
But before we think this is keep everybody at home to drive a truck or whatever, let's remember that what we're trying to do here is help students, hopefully sometime in their junior year, decide what their career path might be. You know, if that's to be a doctor, or that's to be an engineer, or that's to be a history teacher, or is that to be a millwright or a diesel mechanic? I mean, we'd like to help them so they won't waste time in their career paths. So it's just kind of one of the things we're thinking about.
Representative Gunther, have you received commitment from your caucus that this is going to be a priority?
It is going to be in the Jobs Committee, and it is going to be in our omnibus bill, and we're looking forward to having it pass.
And our bill, the reason we're up today is we're in Senator Tomassoni's committee. Senator Dames and I will be presenting it, and we hope and I think we're pretty sure we're going to get pretty good support in that committee.